his best possible chance of winning a major, and he started well in that match and faded very badly against Wawrinka, but has recovered nicely and has played some really good tennis at the tail end of the year. But I think perhaps one of the reasons everyone thought he was going to do so well at the US Open was because of how well he played on the North American hardcourt swing. And of course, the last time these four players made it through to the semi-finals of a tournament was in Canada, and of course Murray eventually prevailed then.
And he certainly did. And how did he do it? In the semis, he beat Nadal. And in the finals, he beat Federer. So perhaps that's an omen, folks.
This week he's played pretty well, though was disappointing, I think, against Federer. That was the match everybody thought was going to be an absolute cracker. And he didn't really show up. He served incredibly poorly. First serve percentage was in the low 30s. I mean, absolutely no chance to compete with the best players in the world when that happens. And he actually returned poorly too. So those are his two main strengths. Of course, he needs a vast improvement in those two areas this afternoon to stand any chance at all of making it through to tomorrow's final. What about Nadal's performances this week, Robbie? Because we didn't really know what to expect initially, because for the first time in his career took a long break after the US Open, played a couple of tournaments in Asia, but since then we haven't seen him at all.
Yeah, 6 weeks, took a nice break, and for me it was also going to be crucial how he performed in that first match, if he was able to get through it, and he was. It was a tight one against Roddick, one of the best matches we've seen at the event this week. And he was in trouble, down a break in the second, 2-1, was in trouble in the second set, tiebreaker, but as Nadal so often does, was able to find a way to win. And he said once he got that first match under his belt, he calmed down so much, he felt a lot more relaxed, and I think that's why we saw the performances improve from the second match and then again in the third match. So I think he's in a nice position right now.
Fair to say that the serve hasn't been going as well as he would want it, but the rest of his game seems to be clicking into place very nicely.
Yeah, I think that's fair comment. We've seen that the first serve percentage has been perhaps a little below par, and occasionally points won in first serve, not as fruitful as he would like, but we know how good he is from the back of the court against Novak. Those first 10 games were incredible, but if you can't play at a high level all the time with Nadal, he just runs you ragged. 6-2 in the second set against Djokovic, 6-1 in the second set against Berdych. So it just highlights that opening set against Berdych. I think it was 70-75 minutes, and I think Berdych had nothing left to give in the second, and that's what you're up against when you play Rafa.
And I guess, therefore, that's the big test this afternoon for Murray. He knows he can implement a game plan that's effective against Nadal. We know that as well because we've seen it in the past. The question is, can he do it for the next 3 hours?
He can. I believe he can. He's one of the few guys who can hang with Nadal for a couple of hours. And of course, the last time they played, he played some good tennis. We were both there in Toronto and played perhaps one of the better matches that he's played throughout the course of the year.
And he's got a great record against Nadal, particularly on hard courts. You take away the meetings that Murray's lost to Nadal on clay and on grass, and the head-to-head record's very different.
Yeah, he's won 4 of the last 5 on this particular surface, so that tees things up very nicely for Andy as far as this surface is concerned. And I'm sure he's also going to like the fact that the ball is staying a little low, so when he does attack with that backhand up the line, if he's looking to move forward, it's going to be difficult for Nadal to pass him if the ball is hit flat and stays low. I think that game plan is going to be important from Andy today.
Do you think also it's going to be of the utmost importance for Murray to perhaps play some all-court tennis? He did that very well in Melbourne when he beat Nadal. He was mixing up the tactics behind the first serve beautifully. And earlier this week, we've seen Roddick initially have a lot of success against Nadal when he served and volleyed out to the left-hander's forehand in the ad court. Might we see Murray attempt to do that a little bit today?
I think he will a little bit, but then again, his serve is not as good as Roddick's. He doesn't have the hopper, that big kick serve, the pacey kick serve that works so well for Andy. So that's one of my concerns. But he's very good around the net. And I remember when he played in Paris, even though it was a faster surface than this one against David Nalbandian in particular, you know, after getting duffed up in the opening set, I really enjoyed the way that he was he recognized that and was prepared to serve and volley in set number 2, which really changed the outcome of the match. So that's the kind of player Murray is. He can call on different options in a match if one thing's not going well. So it's important for him to have that in the back of his mind, just like he did in that Nalbandian match.
And he was very aggressive against Ferrer, wasn't he?
Certainly was. Played poor opening 2 games, but then he realized that he needed to up his level considerably. And flick of a light switch, was a different player out there, and pretty much ran away with that one. And some of the ball striking was unbelievable. So I think he's going to be feeling very good coming into that match.
And it's vital, of course, that you are aggressive against Nadal, because then you don't give him the opportunity to dictate play, because if you do, you just end up running miles and miles and miles behind your own baseline, don't you?
Oh, exactly. And we know Nadal's trying to stand up the court a little bit more these days, so he's taking the ball earlier when possible. And when he's hitting the ball early, with that much spin, creating angles, you certainly don't want to be hauling around the back of the court here.
Judy's been here all week, as has Kim, Andy's girlfriend.
Here's the rest of the team.
And I think they'll be amped as well, because everybody wants to finish the season on a high. Getting through the group was important, because that was the minimum required, really, to leave the tournament feeling that you'd done okay.
Yeah.
Now, anything from here on in is icing on the cake, because, of course, you're playing against the very best player on the planet. And then tomorrow in the final, if you do get the right result today, it's Nadal, it's Federer or Djokovic. So these are your peers. These are the guys you have to beat to win majors. And this is a perfect opportunity for Murray to throw down a marker as far as 2011 is concerned. So a great deal of anticipation surrounds both semi-finals today. The top 4 players in the world, because Murray will overtake Soderling when the new rankings come out on Monday, irrespective of what happens between now and Sunday evening, are going to do battle this afternoon for a place in the final of the Barclays ATP World Tour Finals. Nadal won the toss and elected to receive. So